Hi, I'm going to read you a short story called TC's Liberated Christmas, and it's from a book called TC's Lesbian Shorts that is available on Amazon, and it's written by me under the pen name of Lindy Stewart. I thought I might stay anonymous, but however I am not. So here we are, and here's one of the short stories, and it is based on my experiences, of course, although here we go then. TC's Liberated Christmas. TC was almost ready to go out. She gazed approvingly at herself in the amber-tinted full-length mirror in the hall next to the front door with its Gothic hinges and mullioned window. TC had gone to great lengths in the fitting and furnishing of her London apartment, inspired by a particular chapter in the sometimes rather mucky book, The Art of Seduction. This vaguely educational tome had been purchased by TC in her early teens by mail order, along with a Charles Atlas You Can Have a Body Like Mine volume from a magazine that she carried out of the shop in a brown paper bag. When TC's friends came round, they assumed that the candelabras in every room, bar the kitchen and bathroom, were purely ornamental and just another example of TC's bad taste. They had not read The Art of Seduction and the section on the importance of intimate lighting and the flattery of candlelight and amber-tinted mirrors. There was another large one on the wall of the bedroom, and neither were they ever present when they were lit. TC adjusted the nondescript jacket and woolly scarf she pulled on over her hand-knitted jumper and newly purchased dungarees. She smiled again at herself and, closing the front door of number 3, the Villas, left for her meeting. En route, there was plenty of grist for the mill. Half-naked women's bodies used in selling everything from stockings to cars, or conventionally dressed women in conventionally domestic surroundings, selling food, washing up liquid, vacuum cleaners and other household appliances. TC walked the last few yards to the new women's centre, catching up with Carol and Barbara. "Are we going out again tonight?" Carol asked TC. "I expect so. Last night was a good one. Hundreds of people must have seen that hoarding we wrote on." TC was referring to the car advert that bore the legend, "If this car was a lady, she'd get her bottom pinched." They'd written on it in huge black letters, "If this car was a woman, she'd run you over." The trio entered the shop-fronted building. Lots of women were already there, seated on the floor. The first time TC had attended the Women's Liberation group, she'd spotted a lone chair and gone and sat in it. This was viewed with horror by the other women, and they explained to TC that no one sat higher than each other, hence all on one level. The chair was moved out, which happily spared anyone else's blushes, not that blushing was tolerated either. TC had scored full marks on that test of self-confidence. She never blushed or apologised for the odd faux pas. They had a movable chairperson so that no one was perceived as having a position of power in the many discussions, and TC tried hard to appear as democratically inclined as possible throughout any debate. They all had to say their names, first ones only. Patriarchal family names were abhorred. TC was glad of that let-off. Remembering women's first names had never been TC's strong point, never mind their surnames. TC was wondering what her mates were up to. It was now 9:30, and yet another action group had been set up. They were going to produce a newsletter. One of the women was at the London College of Printing, and so had access to paper and a press. TC had volunteered for that. She'd always had a penchant for writing her thoughts on paper, and also penned a few poems since leaving school. "They'll be down the gates by now," TC calculated. "I've still got enough time to get home and change. I could be there by just after 11. First up had been the question of Christmas. As it was only a couple of weeks away, TC thought a party might be planned. No. This was further elaborated on by a girl with long brown hair, wire spectacles that could have been pre-war, baggy trousers and boots. TC strained to try and remember her name. She actually found her attractive under all that camouflage. Religion is a patriarchal institution that militates against the spirituality of women, the bespectacled focus of TC's concentration began. Anyway, after much muttering and agreement, it was decided to hold a winter solstice women's meeting with cheese and wine. TC smiled wryly at the middle-classness of cheese and wine. The word women, W-Y-M-I-N, had also been adopted by the end of the evening. As TC said her goodbyes, the girl with the long hair came over. I wondered if we could collaborate on a story for the newsletter. You made some interesting comments that we could expand on. Would you like to come back to mine? It's only a short tube ride away, and we could discuss it over a cup of tea. TC took her chances where they presented themselves. It depends on whether I can get back home. I live at the Angel. TC was delighted at the way her luck was running. I'm at Holloway Road, so no problem. After an animated journey, Jennifer continuing to discuss the newsletter article enthusiastically, the pair stepped over the threshold of number 3. TC's ignorance had been assuaged when Barbara had called out "Goodbye, Jennifer," as they'd left the centre. We'll need a better light than this, Jennifer had said after TC had turned a couple of lamps on in the drawing room prior to the candle lighting ceremony. The rest of the time before midnight was spent heavily illuminated, both literally and figuratively, as they worked out their contribution to the newsletter. TC was genuinely pleased when Jennifer agreed to stay, and in her bed. Even more as she felt the long hair sweeping softly over her stomach and those warm kisses planted in nearby parts too. TC leaned down and pulled Jennifer up, rolled over and began kissing her face and neck. And when she felt Jennifer's body relaxing under her, TC wasn't going to mind being liberated from Christmas in this year of our Lord 1972. There. I hope you enjoyed that little pastiche. And there's plenty more where that came from in the book. Don't forget, you can get it from Amazon. And I'll probably read another story for you in the future. Bye for now. Bye.